Thank you for watching ECSO News on Blab TV, where facts matter. I'm Amber Southard.
And I'm Allison Morgan. Let's take a look at our top trending Facebook headlines. Using a camera to take a video up a woman's skirt. On July 20th, Escambia County deputies responded to Target on 9 Mile Road. Christopher Dreyer was arrested and charged with video voyeurism and battery. Witnesses say he approached a woman in an aisle and pretended to drop an item on the ground. Then he used his camera to film up her skirt. If you think you might have been a victim of this crime, please contact the Escambia County Sheriff's Office at 436-9620.
On July 4th, a surveillance camera captured this man walking into the Circle K located at 5050 Mobile Highway just before he robbed the store. The suspect may live close by the area of Massachusetts Avenue. And in this video captured on July 9th, the suspect goes to the front door of a home on Mohegan Circle in Cantonment and rings the doorbell. After no one answers, the suspect makes entry into the residence through the back door of the home. The man was seen wearing camo pants with suspenders and a white t-shirt. He's been seen driving a white SUV. If you have any information on either of these incidents, please call the Sheriff's Office at 436-9620 or Crime Stoppers at 433-STOP.
Thank you to Jessica Barnes for sharing this photo with us on Facebook. While on vacation, she took these pictures of two of our deputies helping a child find his parents on Pensacola Beach. Sergeant Knotts carried the little boy on his shoulders until he found his parents. After the boy was reunited with his parents, Deputy Martinez gave him some Sheriff's Office swag. Since Jessica posted the picture on Facebook, it has been shared more than 35,000 times.
Another picture on our Facebook page is getting a lot of attention. You can see Deputy Rasmussen hugging a puppy.
He met the puppy after responding to a call and adopted it after learning the owner could no longer care for it. We have Deputy Rasmussen and Loki here with us in the studio to get an update.
And as you can see, he's still holding Loki. They're still hugging.
Oh yes, she loves laying, just relaxing.
She's cracking me up. So give us an update on her. How is she doing?
She's good. Went to the vet and got her shots and got her dewormed. After a few days of medication, she's in good health and good spirits.
And how is she interacting at home? You said you had another dog?
Yes, I have a 3-year-old Australian Shepherd named Thor.
So she's doing well. She's running around the house acting like a normal puppy?
She's acting like a normal puppy. She's already running the house.
And take us through that call, how you responded to it and how you learned about Loki.
We responded to an animal incident. They said the puppy appeared to be in distress. She was panting heavily and looked malnourished. Arrived on scene and found Loki in a shopping cart and could barely stand up. She was very skinny. You could just about see her rib cage and was panting heavily. She had a hard time standing up. After talking with the owner, learned that he had tried taking the dog to the animal shelter, but with it being a Sunday, the animal shelter was closed and they would not accept her. So, after consulting with my wife, we decided that we could take her home and invite her into our family.
I have to say, on our Facebook page, we said that, you called and consulted with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
People love that. They understand. It's our final say.
Exactly. She runs the household.
Yeah. We had a few more questions on our Facebook, like how old is Loki?
She is 4 months old.
And then what type of dog is she, if that's you can tell?
The vet says she believes she's a Dutch Shepherd.
Okay. She's so, is this her temperament all the time?
Oh yeah, she's very lazy and laid back. She doesn't really care a whole lot.
And you said she has a lot of energy now that she's doing a lot better.
Oh yes, compared to last week, she is, as you can tell, very energetic and just wants to run around and investigate everything.
So what's next for Loki? Do you think she's going to join our K9 units?
I don't know. She'd like to.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Thanks, Loki. We love having you guys on, and thanks for the update. We would also like to congratulate one of our canines on his retirement, K9 Drago. He retired from the ECSO last month after working for the department since 2010. In that time, Deputy Hall and Drago have located numerous guns, drugs, and 137 suspects. Drago will enjoy his retirement at his partner's home, a 20-acre piece of property with a creek. She said yes. Just before the Blue Angels took to the air, Deputy Tatum took to one knee, asking Deputy Berry to marry him. Congratulations to you both.
This is a reminder to lock your doors. The Escambia County Sheriff's Office dive team, along with the Escambia County Fire Department and a flatbed tow truck, pulled this sunken SUV from the water. No one was inside the car. ECSO deputies contacted the owner, who reported the vehicle stolen.
We got out here, there's in fact a car in the water, and so we ended up calling fire and our dive team out to make sure nobody was in there. We sent units to try to make contact with the registered owner. Come to find out the car was stolen. The keys were left in the center console and the driver's side window was left down.
Remember, lock your doors, keep what's yours. They are the best in the state. The ECSO School Resource Officers were awarded the title of Unit of the Year by the Florida Association of School Resource Officers.
Having a resource officer here in the school, building relationships, trust, and our kids get to see the deputy in a whole different light is very vital.
But that wasn't the only award the ECSO won. Deputy Ron Gill was named Officer of the Year.
Hey boys, hey buddy.
He's there when you need him, and he's more, like I said, he's more than an SRO.
And that's how most students describe Senior Deputy Ron Gill. His career in law enforcement started 40 years ago. The past 12 years, he's worked as an SRO for the Escambia County Sheriff's Office.
That's the kind of person Ron is. He doesn't think about himself. Most of the time he thinks about the kids and the community. I wish I had 1,000 Ron Gills.
I've been in law enforcement a long time. When I first went into the SRO unit, I was not happy. I felt confined because you have the freedom of patrol, and plus our middle schoolers running around everywhere. And as time went on, you come to realize that sometimes you are the only positive influence that you get, that these children get.
But being an SRO isn't just a job for Senior Deputy Gill. He not only works hard protecting students and faculty, he also gives selflessly of his time and money, helping students in need.
A student that can't afford a yearbook, Gill's going to make sure they have a yearbook. But it's not going to be from Gill. That sponsor will, the yearbook sponsor will just make sure that child gets a yearbook. But Gill is behind that.
Senior Deputy Gill likes to help students behind the scenes, keeping his generosity a secret. From creating a lunch account in his name with the goal of feeding the less fortunate students, to purchasing Bibles, t-shirts, club dues, and trip fees. All done from the kindness of his heart, wanting to see the young children thrive. Students and teachers say one word comes to mind when you think of Senior Deputy Gill: friendship. A friend who never judges them and is always open to have a conversation.
Everybody loves him. He doesn't have any enemies.
Having an SRO on campus is very important. Deputy Gill brings a sense of community too to our program here at Ernest Ward. He interacts with the kids. He builds relationships with the kids. He establishes a rapport like no other employee on campus can.
Whether it's counseling students, leading Teens for Christ, or showing up at community sporting events on his own time, Senior Deputy Gill has built a reputation within the student population as not just a law enforcement officer, but a person they can look up to.
He's more than just what you would think an officer would be, because coming up here in 6th grade, I was scared of what the police officer being in the school. You know, if you do anything wrong, he may be right up on your back. But I mean, he's not the one he's not going after people doing stuff wrong. He's trying to catch people doing stuff right.
One of his many accomplishments as an SRO came shortly after Senior Deputy Gill was assigned to Ernest Ward Middle School. A school club, Teens for Christ. Their leader was stepping down and no one was able to fill the slot. Without a leader, the club would have been eliminated. When Senior Deputy Gill heard about the club's issue, he stepped in to fill the void.
I said, well, I can do it, you know. So I went to the principal and asked her, what is the issue? Why they have to meet in the afternoon? She said, we have to give them breakfast. I said, I can take care of that.
What Senior Deputy Gill is not quick to say is the club started with a group of 12 students. The club now has grown to over 80 members, all of whom he provides breakfast for out of his own pocket.
He loves the community and he enjoys being with kids.
He does not ask for recognition. He does not ask for reward. Senior Deputy Gill simply says, I'm just doing my job.
There was a young man who went to school here several years ago, and he was a pain. I mean, he really, truly was a problem child. A couple months back, I got a Facebook message from him. Whoa, sometimes you get these things, and he said, "Are you still doing SRO stuff?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, good." He said, "Keep up the good work, because I don't know where I would have been if it hadn't been for your guidance." And that's the most rewarding thing, is when you hear kids, after they've been gone for years, will come back up to you and talk to you about it.
We would not be a whole community without him being here on our campus. He is truly an amazing, giving man.
Another Operation Clean Sweep success, here's Operation Clean Sweep at 9.5 Mile Road by the numbers. 5 warrant attempts, 3 arrests, 10 traffic citations, 20 code enforcement violations, 7 verifications of sex offenders' addresses. The next Operation Clean Sweep will be held on August 18th in the Montclair neighborhood. For a list of upcoming clean sweeps, head to our website, escambiaso.com.
Our next Citizens Law Enforcement Academy will get underway tomorrow. The 11-week academy is held twice a year, starting in March and in August. Participants will learn about the daily operations of the Sheriff's Office and hear from deputies in patrol, crime, and our major crime departments, among many others. We'll keep you updated on ECSO News and on our Facebook page with what they're learning. Now, that's all the time we have for our major Facebook headlines, but stay tuned for the Sheriff's Report, and you can ask him questions that matter to you.
Hello, I'm Escambia County Sheriff David Morgan. Over the years, I've been asked many questions while at the office, during public events, or when I'm spending my free time in the community with my wife, Susan. Many of the questions about the department start off with, "Sheriff, I've been meaning to ask you." And after speaking to my team, we came up with the idea to extend another opportunity for the citizens of Escambia County to ask questions about the ECSO. A camera crew will be in a different location in the county each week, ready to ask your question on camera. I will answer the question, and it will air here on Blab TV right after the ECSO news every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. You can also email your questions to askthesheriff@escambiaso.com. So here are a few of the questions we've already received.
My biggest concern would be the spending control that they would have. Being new to the city, you just would like to know
what money's being spent where.
Right.
And the different pots of money that we might have and where it may go.
Well, Misha, that's an excellent question on the budgetary process. And so, it's difficult for laymen, if you will, those who don't deal with government budgets, to understand it. So let me begin with a kind of a simple explanation, and it's called colors of money. And by that, those of us who are elected to office have to go through a significant amount of training on the budgetary process and how we can spend different pots or colors of money, because they can't be mixed. Now, the majority of the sheriff's budget comes from what's called ad valorem taxes, and those are our property taxes that those of us pay every year that own a home in Escambia County. Now, that money is collected, through the tax appraiser, tax collector. Eventually, it goes to the Board of County Commissioners, and all of the elected officials, to include the Board of County Commissioners, splits up all of that money with the different offices throughout Escambia County. Now, that's one color of money or pot of money that I have as a sheriff of Escambia County. In addition to that, we get a certain number of federal grants. Now, once again, that money can only be used for specific things. Like we got a COPS grant a few years ago as an excellent example. It allowed us to hire 20 additional law enforcement officers to field on the streets of Escambia County. Now, the grant was a little over $3 million, and the agreement with the federal government was that at the end of the grant period, we were required to extend and keep or retain those 20 additional officers. So we had to increase our budget at the end of a 3-year cycle by $1.3 million through the county in order to retain those 20 officers. So we've got ad valorem taxes, federal grants. In addition to that, we also have what's called LET funds, and there's two forms of those. One is a state law enforcement training fund, and one is called a trust fund. Now, the training fund is primarily funded by tickets that we write. One of the things that we laugh about in law enforcement is when a community is having a particular problem with speeders, they'll say, "Sheriff, if you would send a deputy out here, their salary could be funded just by the amount of tickets that you write." We don't keep that money here in Escambia County. Those tickets are compiled, sent to the state, and $10 goes to fund the court system. An X amount of dollars goes to fund the clerk of the court. The guardian ad litem program is funded by that, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And we get an average of $3 per ticket back from the state that allows us to conduct training for all of our law enforcement officers. And then lastly, there's something called trust fund money, and that comes from drug forfeitures. Now that's what I refer to as my discretionary fund, and by that I mean I have the most latitude in how I spend that money with any other fund. I can't hire deputies with that money, so again, that money also has restrictions, and I'm required by Florida statute to give a certain amount of that back to the county. Now I can give all of it back or only a certain amount, but again, it has restrictions on how it can be spent. I have chosen through charitable organizations to give back drug money to my community for programs such as Pace Center for Girls, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, any sort of program that mentors young men and women and again diverts them from juvenile delinquency and all too often, unfortunately, a life of crime. So I'm allowed to use that money for that. It's, drug diversion, crime prevention money, etc. And that's the last pot of money that we deal with. Now, the budget of the city and the county are separate. So I noticed in your question you asked about the city. That is a separate government entity in Escambia County. Escambia County has 2 incorporated cities, Pensacola and Century. We're a large county, but when it comes to the number of cities, we only have 2 in Escambia County. Their budgets are separate and distinct from the county budget. So if you want to know more about how the city spends their money or how Century spends theirs, I would recommend that you contact the mayors of both respective cities and ask for public records in that area.
What's going to be happening with the jail, with the rebuilding of it, and when should we expect the new jail to be built?
As far as the jail goes, Francis, again, you're probably aware the jail was transitioned back to the county a little over 2 years ago now. Before the jail explosion. It was about 7 months before the jail explosion, near the conclusion of the Department of Justice investigation. And it was purely a budgetary issue. It was why I decided to give the jail back to the county. If you followed any of that process through the local media, I tell folks it was almost like an Old Testament scene. There was great wailing and moaning and gnashing of teeth and tearing of clothes, pulling of hair, etc. Unfortunately, we agreed to disagree. And by Florida statute, sheriffs are not required to run the county correctional facilities. That actually comes under the Board of County Commissioners. Now, they select someone called a county administrator who is basically in charge of the jail and all the operating entities throughout the county, and he answers to the elected officials who are the Board of County Commissioners. Now, we are no longer in that process, and so that, while we were asked our opinion about the construction of the jail, where it should go, etc., we don't run the jail any longer, so I have somewhat separated or divorced myself from that process. The one request that we did ask of the county is that the jail be built south of 9 Mile Road. The reason for that is the travel time for arrests that we make from basically the metropolitan center of Escambia County, and also the true users of the jail, which most people don't think about this unless you've been involved in that process, is actually our court system. Many times the judge will say, I want prisoner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in front of my bench in 15 minutes. If you build the jail in the north end of the county somewhere, that's not going to happen, and that will hold up the court process. And they are really the users of our jail system as much or more than anyone else. And so we requested that the county build it south of 9 Mile Road. It's our understanding that a property referred to as the McDonald's property, which is the family McDonald, is in negotiation if it hasn't already been purchased by the county, which is the property right behind the existing old jail complex, the jail that did not blow up. And so that's called the main jail, and it's actually faces Pace Boulevard. So as I understand it, that is the property that will be purchased if it hasn't already been purchased, and the jail will be constructed there. I think the lead time for the construction of the jail is 5 to 6 years. So we will not be occupying a new jail facility in Escambia County in the near term. If you have any further questions on this, again, specifically, again, I don't run the jail, and so I would recommend that you go to your specific county commissioner, depending upon the commission district that you're in, and pose that question to your county commissioner because they are in charge of the jail.
Is due to recent events that had happened in Dallas. How do you expect, or what do you plan to do to protect our police officers in Pensacola?
We train continually. We refer to this, as all law enforcement agencies do, as raising your antenna or cranking up what's referred to as situational awareness. Complacency is the killer in law enforcement. That's why we hate the word routine. It was a routine traffic stop. It was a routine domestic violence call. It was a routine drug bust. It was a routine warrant service. It's those routines that we attach to an operation in law enforcement where an officer ends up either getting severely injured or they lose their life. Unfortunately, there's a certain level of danger associated with this line of work that you can never escape. As you recall, in Dallas, these were officers who were in the line of duty, in the performance of their duty, I should say, that particular day, protecting the First Amendment rights of people who were hurling epithets. They were dropping the F-bomb on the police. It was, F the police. Yet our officers were out there in Dallas performing their duties, allowing citizens the right to practice their First Amendment rights. Tragically, because of that dedication to duty and the understanding that other people's rights came before their rights came, they ran into the sniper and the officers lost their lives. So we in Escambia County put out all of the bulletins to all of our officers. It's read at our musters. We practice active shooter programs, situational awareness. But there's a certain amount of danger that is associated with law enforcement that we will never be able to escape. That is what I think we all look at with the situations in Dallas and unfortunately those that are occurring now all too often throughout our nation. When you put on the badge and you strap the gun on, that's what you accept. And so we can only protect ourselves to a certain level, and beyond that it's in the hands of God.
Wondering, body camera, are they getting them, wearing them? What's the policy?
We will be getting body cameras at some point in Maryland. Right now we're taking a very measured approach to body cameras. If you're following this throughout the United States, there are some agencies who made the rush to body cameras who are now backing out, some of the agencies in California. This was, I think, more of a symbolic move forward and a knee-jerk reaction to, again, it was symbolic in nature because we wanted to show our communities throughout the United States that we're doing something to stop what was portrayed as the shooting of young unarmed black men, which again, that is not true. I encourage any citizen to do their research before they get on this symbolic bandwagon that we have police out here indiscriminately shooting young black people. That is just not true. So let me run through some data for you real quick. We make approximately 1 million arrests a year in the United States. That's from state, local, and federal agencies. That's all law enforcement combined. Out of those million arrests, 1.3 of those million arrests, percentage, are the ones that result in any other action above putting handcuffs on a suspect, meaning that we had to employ an impact weapon, which is an ASP, or we had to use pepper spray, which, to subdue someone, or a taser, or of course, which is the ultimate, which is the use of our firearm. 1.3. So that means that 98% of the time, basically, actually 98.7% of the time, our officers never go beyond putting handcuffs on a suspect. But what do you see on the news every night? Again, a police shooting involving. That is almost statistically immeasurable. Now, where the rub comes in is this: it's statistically unmeasurable if it's not you. And so therefore it gets the press. But what we're saying is that we have a law enforcement agency, as with all the other agencies in the United States, that are bringing home an A on our report card, but my mom and dad are telling me that it has to be an A+. Please understand that we'll never do 100% in law enforcement because we are humans and we're dealing with humans. And so therefore, if you're looking for perfection, you'll never have that. We find that kind of odd because we're the only profession that's held to that standard. The medical profession, are allowed to prescribe medications that do what? Could cause either could worsen your condition or could bring a loss of life, some dreaded disease. That can be up to and including through the FDA a 10% loss rate. Yet we in law enforcement are held to a standard that is much, much higher. So will we get body cameras? Yes, we're measuring, we're doing a measured response. We're working with the state attorney's office. This year in our budget submission for 2016-17, we've asked for $300,000 to start outfitting members of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office with body cameras. We're going to start with probationary employees, and that'll be a part of the probationary process. But again, while hanging a camera on someone, again, is nothing but symbolic. And the reason why I say that is this. As with all things, it's the other end that we're very concerned about. As you're aware, in the state of Florida, we have a very open public records law, which is a good thing. You know, it keeps honest people honest. As I tell folks, as an elected official, if I tell you a story tonight about a particular thing, if I'm not doing my very best to tell you the truth, I'm not real smart, because there'll come a point in time in this process that you can request all the public documents and it will come out whether I was telling you the truth or not. So with the body cameras, many of our news media outlets are saying that they're going to have a standing order for all of our body cameras every day, all of the tape on that. So let's use you as an example. We respond to your house tonight because you have a suspected burglary. Do you want us coming into your house and videotaping everything in your house? And the answer is no. So now we'll have to write, through the Florida statutes and also through our local policies and procedures here, how can we legally edit a video and still have that video submitted as evidence? And the answer is that's a pretty tough nut to crack in the legal community. So now we've got to draw the defense bar and other folks in as to how do we do that with evidence which heretofore would be considered tampered with. You can't submit evidence that's been altered in any way. So again, while this rush to body cameras sounds very good, there's a lot of hoops we've got to jump through to, number one, make it legal, and number two, to really bring something to the table that adds to the professionalization of law enforcement and adds to the assurance in our community that your law enforcement officers are not doing anything wrong. I will tell you, and I will submit to you, that the numbers are there that should be enough of an assurance to my community that your law enforcement is doing an outstanding job, not only in Escambia County, but as a whole throughout the nation. Yet we've got those folks in our communities that want more. They want videotape of that proof. We're engaging, unfortunately, in a legal circular argument that there will be no end to. We need some rational minds and cooler heads to prevail in this process. We'll eventually have body cameras in Escambia County. I'm unopposed to them. Why? Because you're going to find that 99.9% of the time, our officers are doing yeoman's work. They're doing exactly what they should be doing. What I predict you're going to see on the body cam videos, if it doesn't get excluded from the public records laws, is a lot of civilians acting very badly.